Now, a record 348,000 refugees have risked sea journeys worldwide since the start of this year. The majority of refugees making their way to Europe typically make a treacherous journey across the Mediterranean. Let's speak to Michelle Leighton, who's the Chief of the Labour Migration Branch at the International Labour Organization. She joins us now live from Geneva. Good to have you with us. I mean, these figures are just astonishing. Hundreds of thousands of refugees risking their lives, trying to find a better lifestyle. Why are so many of them doing this?
Yes, well, this is a real tragedy. So many are fleeing war and violent conflict. There's disasters happening in other parts, and in particular there's economic crisis, which is really a serious problem in so many countries. There are just not decent jobs. So many are trying to make their way on basis of survival. But what's happening at the same time is that governments are closing their doors to migrants and making border crossings even tighter, which really means that migrants are trying to seek other means and take whatever measures they can to cross the seas and to find a better life.
Yeah, you've just hit on a key problem there, because the UN Refugee Chief Antonio Guterres says that, many countries see keeping immigrants out as a bigger priority than upholding the principles of asylum, and therefore their policies reflect that. So how do you change that mindset?
Yes, I mean, it's a very difficult problem and certainly a key challenge. I mean, the first thing we have to focus on is creating decent work opportunities in countries of origin, so migration becomes a choice rather than an obligation of survival. But we know that international labor markets and globalized world that we live in means that people are going to still continue to migrate. So governments have to consider opening regular channels of migration and finding safe and more regular ways for migrants to come, and at the same time look at their labor markets and ensure that workers and employers are really part of the dialogue in terms of solving this problem.
This is something that your organisation is looking at as well as the UNHCR. I know there's a conference this week looking at the problems of migration. Yes. Do you think anything will come out of it? Do you think there's enough focus on this issue?
I think there is a higher recognition that the problem is one that's urgent, that needs government attention. The lack of governance, and we have a fragmented global governance system when it comes to migration, and the lack of this governance really is borne out by the tragedies that we're seeing. So I think it's high on the priority list of governments. This conference is a testament, I think, to the beginning of looking at a more comprehensive strategy. But we also have to be clear that the challenges are fairly complex, including not just for the migrants who are crossing at sea, but for the seafarers in the shipping industry. Many people forget that it's an obligation to rescue migrants at sea, and so much of the seafarers are taking on the burden because governments are not able to get the policies right and to really find cooperative strategies. So this is going to be an important topic of dialogue.
Interesting stuff, Michelle. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Michelle Leighton, though, there from the ILO.